Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session on Google Workspace, not G Suite for beginners, all about Google Forms today. How does it feel to be at the end of the term? It feels amazing, doesn't it? We're all looking forward to that last little bit where we can just relax. If you haven't joined me before, my name's Wendy Pesquet, and I'm bringing you this session via Google, via Apps Events today. I'm a Google certified trainer and innovator. And as we've said, we're going to look at Google Forms. We're going to look at this in a lot of different ways, really. We're going to see the versatility that Forms brings us as one of the Google Workspace tools. We're going to look at the way it can gather data. So if you want to use it for quick data to use within your lessons. We're going to have a look at assessments and how you can save time with the self-marking features, and how you can add video content to create these bite-sized flip learning sessions. But hopefully we'll take it a little bit further than that as well. We might even look at some survey with branching questions. We'll see how far we can get in the time we've got together. So that's the plan for today. I'm going to show you an example of each one, and then I'm going to show you how to create that type of activity. So the first thing we spoke about was how to create something that you can use quickly as data in class. Now, this is a Google form with just one question, and it was used within a maths class for students, primary age students, to look at the create charts about how many pets they owned. So this is a very simple one. It's the easiest one that you can use, but it's the one that you can do very quickly in class and get students using it straight away. So let's have a look at that one first of all. So all I'm going to do is move that out the way again. So I'm going to be moving examples on and then showing you how to create them. Let's start that right from the beginning and create that particular one before we move on to the others. So here's me in a Google account. All I'm going to do is go to my apps launcher, which is in the top right-hand corner. Select that, and then I'm looking for Google Forms, which is the purple one, okay? So once I've selected Google Forms, I get the option of choosing a blank or a blank quiz. Now, just for this survey type one, I just need a blank. That means it's a survey, okay? It means it's not self-marking. If I choose blank quiz, then it's looking for some element of which answers are right or wrong. But in this particular survey type one, I don't need to state which are the correct answers because there are none. So just tap on blank and it opens up. And the way Google Forms presents itself is it gives you the title here, it gives you another title up in the top left-hand corner, and then it gives you a box here, and everything in this box is to do with the very first question. Okay, so everything here is the very first question. So the first thing to do whenever you create a Google form is to give it a title. So this one's going to be called Class Survey. And this title at the top here is how I would find my document in the Google Drive. So that's what the actual file is called. And this bit here that says Untitled Form, if I click, it should pick up the name that I've already typed at the top. And it's important to put the title there as well, because that's the title that the user will see when they're filling the form in. So moving just underneath that, you've got form description. I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see bits. And form description is where you will give the user just some information about why they're using this form. So in this particular one for a class survey, it would just be a simple description about just select the number that represents how many pets you've got. If it was a survey where you were asking for feedback for people, you just thank them in advance for using it. And if it was a piece of homework, you might want to tell people when it was due in by. So that's the sort of thing that you've got there. And I tried to keep it sort of a reasonable size so you can see it. And then over on the right here, you've got your toolbox. And we'll look at some of these in a moment. But I'm going to focus on this first question first of all. So in this one, it was just one question, and it was how many pets do you own? So the simplest option that we can use. And then what you've got to look at here is the question type. And for this one, it's going to be multiple choice. But if I click on it, you can see there are lots of different options. And again, as we do some of these questions, we'll use some more of the different options of question types. So we can have multiple choice. And then where it says option 1, that's my first multiple choice answer. And I'll just put a number 1 in there. And what I love about Google here is the AI that kicks in. So I'll take that in a little bit bigger so you can actually see what happened. So as I typed in a number 1 there, it suggested that I might like to add all of these other numbers too. So it's preempting what I want to do. So I can simply add all here, and that will show that I've now got 5 options in there. But if I wanted some other options, I could actually click on add option again, and then I could type another number. So be careful when you do add those options, because there is something called add other. And add other is when you want to give an option for someone to free type. So if I just type that in the moment, you'll see that I've got other as well. And all I'm going to do is go to the top of my screen and look for the eyeball. It's a little preview button, which looks like an eye. When I click on that, you'll see what the finished form looks like. So this is just one question. How many pets do you own? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I've given the option for someone to write 20 if they've got a menagerie at home. Okay, so the very, very simple survey that you can create. Now, coming back, if I close that preview down, I've still got my editable version here. Okay. Now, what I could do here is to make this a little bit more looking like a proper form. I might want to click on the plus button and add a question. So right on the right-hand side, click on the add question, and notice it's put it at the bottom of my form. And that's because I was clicked on this question. It will always put the next question underneath where you're clicked. So I'm just going to put this question as in name so I can see which student it is. And don't know if you saw then, but it actually changed from a multiple choice question automatically to a short answer question. So now we can see that my questions are in the wrong order. Obviously, I don't want the name at the bottom. But if I zoom in again, you can actually see these 6 little dots that are just at the top in the middle of each question. So I'm going to click on that and drag it where I want it. So click and drag, and I can move the questions around and put them in a different order. So it doesn't matter which order you type them in. Not so useful in this particular example, but you can, if I click on them, you'll notice that the each answer option has also got 6 dots. Again, if I zoom in again a little bit here, you'll see they're just to the left of every answer. And I can click and drag answers options into a different order. Obviously with numbers, they would stay in numerical order, but there might be times when I've typed something and then I realize I want to put them in alphabetical order. So that's something you can consider as well. So again, looking at this question, I've got a box for this question and I have a box for the name question as well. So when I click on the box, it then shows me everything that I can do with it. Okay. So first of all, one of the things that's really useful is to look at the required button here. And if I just toggle this by clicking, I don't drag it, I just click, it will turn purple and that will become a required question. And when the user goes to use it, it means they can't skip that question. So they have to put their name in, or at least some form of text. And I could do that on the actual question about their pets as well. Okay, so nice and straightforward. Now I might want to change that little bit of data somehow. I might want to say, well, not how many pets do you have? I might want to add a very similar question and click on duplicate at the bottom. And I might want to put how many cats do you own? So I leave a similar question, and then I can duplicate it again at this little one at the bottom, and I might want to put how many dogs do you own? So you get the idea. I can quickly build up my set of questions. And because the question that I was copying was a required question, and it puts this little red star, the ones that I've copied as well are also required questions. So let's just look at that with the preview again and have a look at what we've got now. We've got name, we've got how many pets do you own? They're all required questions because they've got this red asterisk. Then how many cats do you own and how many dogs do you own? And that looks like a nice finished form. So we're not going to spend any more time on that one. But if you do have any questions, please just ask. I'm totally happy to answer anything if you want to see something particular. Okay, so let's close that one down. And let's just bring you in another example of what I want to show you now. So this one's a similar survey, but this time it's a survey for parents. And what I want to do here this time is show you about sections. So we're going to put a section in for about the students, and then a section about communication, and then after school clubs. And we're going to look at some different types of questions there. So you can see the different types of questions coming in with this one. So let's have a move of that one out of the way again. And I'll just look at it on my other screen so I can remember what I've typed in before. And I'm going to recreate that particular form. So again, I can just click on the plus sign at the top. I can now click on the apps launcher again and go straight to forms. And that's the way I did it last time. But I could do it a slightly different way. I could decide to go to my Google Drive. And in my Google Drive, I can make a new folder. And I can call this forms. I can create it. And then once it's there, I can open it up. And this is a way I actually like to create my documents in my Drive, but you'll have your own preferred way. This time, now my folder is open, I can actually go to New, and I can choose Google Forms from this drop-down list. And I'm just going to choose a blank form again. So there we go, we're at the beginning again. We've got our untitled form and we need to give it a title. So again, I'm going to start at the top, and this one's going to be called Survey for Parents. Click in this section here, and that should now give it the same name. And remember, I can put a form description should I want to. So let's start with something easy. At the moment, this has got a multiple choice question. I'll just take it up slightly bigger so you can see. So we've got this multiple choice question, and that's going to just be child's name. Oops. And you should start to see, there you go. You saw that flick over onto a different question type. Then I'm going to click on the plus sign, which is add question. And I'm going to do child's class. And then in that options, I'm just going to put a couple of class names. So swallows, wagtails, and possibly bluebirds. So I'm just getting all the data in that I need from my students. And then I might want another question, which is your name. So I won't put parent's name in case it's a guardian, your name. And again, that will flick over. So what I want to do now is I want to add another section, and then I'll show you what that looks like on the preview. So section is this section down here. So this is add a section, where you can see, it looks like an equal sign, but actually it's showing you two parts of something. So I'm going to click on add section, and then you'll see section 2 of 2 here. And I'm going to just call this section communication. Okay, and I can give it a description if I want to. So think about how you might use this. It's really good if you're doing things like if you want a feedback form, you could have a section for praise and a section for criticism if you're looking for information back from parents or users of your services. Okay, so I'm going to now add my question, and that will pop it into the next section. And I want to put, I feel welcome in my child's class. And again, notice what's happened. Strongly agree, disagree, neutral agree, strongly agree. I like the fact that it gives me those options, and they are multiple choice options. So if I selected those, they would all, in fact, I will add them so you can see. If I select all those, they'll end up as that type of question with a multiple choice. But I don't actually want that particular style at the moment. Oops, I went back too far. My child's class. What I want to choose is a linear scale, because this time I want to have, on a scale of 1 to 5, this is how I feel. So these types of survey questions are really useful to get data to look at. So my labels are going to be number 1, strongly disagree, and number 5 will be strongly agree. Okay, so I've now given that the labels there. So number 1 is strongly agree, strongly disagree, and number 5 is strongly agree. So let's have a look at what that looks like now. Always going back to the preview to see what something looks like. And you can see now we've got child's name, child's class, and then when it gets to name here, we've got a next section, and that next section is where the section starts. So each section will be on its own page. And notice, because I've only got to here so far, there's a submit button on this page. I didn't put it there. It just knows it's the last question. So it puts the submit button in. So that's looking okay. And this is what the survey linear scale looks like for the survey. So that's a great way of doing it. And you can actually pretend you're a user and fill it in here to see what happens. But let's carry on. I'm going to close down that particular one and come back to the one we're working on. So we're going to add another section, and this time it will show us how to use a multiple choice grid. So we're looking really at some of these different question types. So again, adding a question section in for my question, and this one's going to be called after school clubs. That's the section, and I've done the section, so now I need to add the question. And this time my question is going to be a multiple choice grid, just so you can see some of the different things. And the question is going to be, please let us know which of these clubs your child might like to attend. Okay, I do apologise about my typing. Whenever I'm being watched, it all goes all to pot. There we go. So what we need to know on this one is that we've got rows and columns. So the rows are going to be my options, as in which classes and clubs my students are going to be given as options. So in row 1, I might put book club. I might put football. I might put circus, skills. Might be tennis. Might be science club. You get the idea. So I'm giving my parents options of clubs that I want my students to have the option of attending. And then in my columns, what I want to have are the answers that people give me. So yes, maybe, no. So simply that, yes, maybe, and then no. So looking at this again, let's just correct my spelling. Or my typing, it's not my spelling, I can spell. There we go. So the questions at the top, this is the question type. We've got the clubs down the left-hand side, and then the columns are going to be yes, maybe, and no. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So again, going back up to the preview, we will have to keep going to next. This is why I haven't put on the required questions, because it would mean I'd have to fill this in each time. But there you go. Look at that as a nice looking question. And this time my parents would go through and they would tell me whether they wanted to actually attend any of these classes. So it's if you're trying to get any information from someone. And that's a lovely way of doing it. Okay, so closing that again, because that's the preview. Coming back here, I'm just going to have a quick look to see if anyone's asked any questions, because I am aware that I need to move things to look. Okay, so here we go. We've managed to make some quite nice sections at the moment, but let's make another one. Here's the new section again. And this section is going to be called, what did I call it? This one's going to be canteen. Okay, so this time we're going to ask a question about the food. And the reason I'm doing this really is just so I can show you how to put some pictures in. So here we go. Let's have a look at add question again. So every time we add a section, we need to add questions to it. And this time, new dishes for the canteen. So I could put that as a proper question, but let's have a look at what we're going to do to add some questions in here, some options. So now, instead of typing something, I could just simply type vegetable curry or vegan pizza, because we're looking at vegetarian dishes that are going into the canteen. But if you can see, along that line, there's actually a symbol for add image. So I'm going to click on add image. I'm just going to come out a little bit so I can see, because obviously it's zoomed in. And I'm going to go to Google image search, and I'm going to look for a veg curry. Okay, so just a simple vegetarian curry. There we go. That one might do. That one will do. And I'm going to double click it. And that should pop that image straight into my form. And then where it says option 1, I can just simply also type the word veg curry. I can go to add option. Again, look for the image. Google image search as well. Obviously, if I had the images already in my Google Drive, if they were ones taken by our school, then I could go straight to the drive to pick them up. In this case, I'm picking them up from the Google image search. This time I'm going to use vegan pizza. I'm not sure that that will look too much different to a vegetarian pizza or just a margarita of some sort, but there we go. This will do me. I'm going to double click on that one, and that will pop it onto my form as well. And there'll be a similar sort of size. Okay, but if you're not happy with the size, you can adjust them a little bit, I think. Oh no, not in this particular view. I can show you how to adjust them in a different view. Okay, so we've now added some questions on here. We've added some image questions as well. So let's have a look at what our form looks like in total now. Let's go to the top and preview it. So we've got the information, which is all about gathering who it's from. We've got the communication section. We got the after school club section. And then we've got the canteen. So again, really, really simple to do. And I didn't have to put the submit or back buttons on. They're all added for me. So let's close that down. So now I've created this form and it's ready to go. What else can I do with it? How do I get it out to people? You know, how do I give it to my parents to fill in? So if you go up to the send button, which is in the top right-hand corner, here you go, it's a purple button at the top, and click on send. Sorry, I do have to zoom in and out. There we go. You get a few different options here. So if it's that you want to put it on your website and you need a link to add it to a website, here's the link. And you can simply copy that link and it will copy the whole entire link. It is a very long link. All Google Docs end up with very long links. Or with Google Forms, it's got a shortener, so you can actually shorten it and copy it. And you can add that to a website. You can tweet it out. You can add it to your Facebook group or whatever communication you've got there. Okay, you put it in your WhatsApp groups, wherever you're sending it out. Alternatively, you can stay where you were on the send via email, and then you simply just add all the email addresses. So if you've got all that in a database already, on a spreadsheet, you can push all the email addresses out on here. So whichever way works best for you. Okay, so very, very simple to do. And once you've done that, so I'm just going to put one email in. and I'm going to send. And you'll see that will just send that to someone. And when they receive it, they'll get it to fill in. So it's not an editable form. Now, the mistake I see people doing quite often on Google Forms, and this is one that you really need to sort of take on board, is I often see people copying the URL at the top and sending that out. And if you do that, just notice it's got the word edit at the end of it. So it does actually say edit in the form title, sorry, in the form URL. So if you send out the one with edit in it, when the person receives it and they try to fill in their name where it says child's name, what they're actually going to do is replace the word child's name with their name. So anything they do, they'll be editing your form. And I've seen that a lot in both schools and colleges. So be aware, whenever you want to send it to someone to fill in, you only do it from the send button. That's a really, really important thing to remember. Now, I've said just send it, but actually before you send it, you want to look at your permissions and your settings on your forms because they might be different in your organization to the default. So let's have a look at this cog, and that's next to the send button, but this cog is actually the settings button. And that cog is the settings button on most of the Google Workspace tools, okay? So click on that one. And you've got some general settings. So you've got general, presentation, and quizzes. So we're just going to look at this general one for now. So if you're pushing this out to your parents, the most important one is this one here, where it says restrict users in Chrome School and its trusted organization. Now it says Chrome School because that's the domain I'm working in as a trainer. But if you were working in ABC school, then it would say restrict to users in ABC school. Okay. So if that's the case and you've got that ticked, however you send out that form, whether you've sent it out by email or whether you've added a link to Twitter, only people that have got a login to your school domain would be able to access the form. So if you want this to be able to be filled in by a wider audience, i.e. your parents, you need to take that tick off. What that will allow is that anybody can fill the form in. Okay, so forms is one of the things that everybody can use, whether they've got a Google account or not. So it's a great way to collect data in. You also get the option if you want to limit to one response. But look what happens when I choose that one. As soon as I want to limit it to one response, it makes sense, but it says now people would have to sign in to Google. And that's because it needs to know who has actually filled it in. Google can't guess. It needs to know that you've used this particular login to do it. So if you do that login again, I'm not going to let you fill the form in again. You can also collect emails, but be aware if you collect emails, the person will see that before they fill anything in. So as soon as they open up the form, it will tell them that this form is collecting emails. Do you want to continue? So it's not a given right that you can just collect somebody's emails. They have to agree to continue. That's a couple of the things in the general settings. And as I said, the most important one is this one that says restrict to users. So if you want your parents to be able to do it, take this tick off. When somebody's responding to your form, they can actually be given the option to edit after submit if you want them to be able to do that. So that is an option. So you can turn that on if you want to. You don't have to. The default is it's not on. And you can also allow people to see what everybody else has answered. So in some cases, that's not going to be appropriate, which is why the default is turned off. But for instance, if you were asking people about I don't know which place that which charity the school would like to give to this year, for instance, and you had a form you sent out that had the 3 charities on it, and people got to choose. Then, if you put a tick on "See Summary Charts," people would be able to see how many people had voted for each one of the charities. So that would be appropriate use of that. Okay, I'm going to take those ticks off so that it's back to the default. Now, the only default that I've taken off is this restrict one, because that is the really important one. And once I've decided I've got all my settings as I want them, I can click save. So if you have forgotten and you've sent out your email to parents and you've forgotten to do the settings, it's not too late. You can just go back in and change the settings after you've sent it out. Obviously, it would be better to do it beforehand, but if someone emails you back and says, I can't access it, you know to go into the settings and take that restriction off. So that's one of the things you could look at. Okay, so I'm going to close this one down, and I'm just going to wait and see if anyone's got any questions before I move on. So I see there's a couple of people watching. Hi, do you have any questions about what you've seen so far? We've done the survey type use of forms, and in a moment we're going to go on and use the self-marking quizzes aspect of it. So if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'm always happy for people to have a look and answer questions. So that would always be a good way of doing it. Ask questions and I'll help you if I can. Okay. So other than that, I'm going to move on to the next one. So I'm just going to find the next one. Okay, so this is the next sort of type of form we're going to create. We're going to create a self-marking quiz that has a video on it and a couple of questions. And once you've got those on there, you can use this as a flipped learning activity. How do I insert an audio for my listening test? Yeah, it's something I haven't covered yet, but you can actually use a third-party app called Moat, and you'll see it on my screen in a moment when I go to create this next one. So let's move this one across. Again, just get it out the way. And I'm going to create this next form, okay? So clicking on New, as we did before, Google Forms, and this time I'm going to choose Blank Quiz, and Blank Quiz will allow me to have a self-marking form, okay? So this time it's all about To Kill a Mockingbird. And again, clicking on the form here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add this video. And if you look again on the right-hand side, you've got your toolbox here, and you can see that we can add video. And you can simply search YouTube for it. If you know the URL of the YouTube you want, you can paste it in. But otherwise, you can just do a search. And I'm going to put To Kill a Mockingbird. So this is sort of GCSE level. Obviously, you can do these flipped learning experiences, activities for any level. They can be right from early learners with pictures, or they can be up to degree level for adults, you know, by just changing the style of your questions. But it's a good way to see how to actually compile them. So when I put a video on, I always say, watch this video. And I usually put, I don't know how many minutes this particular one is, but I normally tell my students how long the video is that they're going to use. Okay, so watch this video first, and I'll put 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes, 30 seconds, something like that. Okay, and then I want to add my questions. So I'm just going to go to the first question and paste that in. And I'm just going to grab the options as well from my other form, so I've got some stuff in here. So give me a second while I just build that question up. So this is a typical sort of GCSE type question. Okay, so I've now got my question in here. Now, if you remember what this box looks like on my other one, you can see that I've got a separate extra part here, which is the answer key. And this is where I can tell Google Forms which is the correct answer. So if I click on the answer key, what you'll see now is it's telling me to choose the correct answers. And the correct answer in this particular one is this, that he's making fun of her. Okay, so that's the correct answer. And then I can go on to give points for that particular answer. So automatically, if my student gets that right, they'll be given 1 point if they choose the right answer. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is adding the answer feedback. So not just telling the students they've got it right and giving them a point, but actually giving them some useful feedback. And we know this is where the good teachers come to light. You're all good teachers, but we know this is a really important aspect of teaching, actually being able to give feedback in a way to students that will move them on if you're not there. So if we choose add answer feedback, that zoom, sorry, every time I'm zoomed in, you'll see I have to move it a little bit. There we go. So we're on add feedback, and you'll notice there's a tab for incorrect answers and a tab for correct answers. And and years ago I used to just see people put in for incorrect, no, try again, and for correct ones, well done, move on. But that's not enough. We want to really spend time giving good feedback at this point, because if this is a reusable resource and it's something that's going to save you time over the different times that you use this activity with your students, and it might be used for several different groups or over several different years, you might want to spend just a little bit of time giving some really good feedback. So for instance, if the students got it wrong, you could say to them, watch this video, okay? And you could take them off to watch a different video, because maybe the video you gave them at the beginning didn't really give them what they wanted. Maybe it was a wrong level for them, or they just didn't get it from that one. So you might actually take them into a different video if they've got the answer wrong. So sorry, it's messing about now because let's do that again. Sorry, when you're zoomed in, if you touch parts of it, it disappears sometimes. So I've just chosen a different one. Watch this video. And this time, if they get it wrong, they get told to watch a video, and I can save that. Okay, so now I've put it on that if my students get it wrong, they can actually watch this video. I can go back in and I could do something different. I could also take that off. Or I could do read this website, and I could go to a link, and I can go and find To Kill a Mockingbird on the internet. You get the idea. So I'm just going to grab anything. I'm not going to probably choose the best thing, but there we go. I'll choose this one. So this might be better for my students. Obviously, the bit that I need to take the time over is finding the right resources to push out to my students. But obviously, I'm doing this quickly at the moment. So I'm going to link to that one, and I might just say that was Britannica. Okay, and save it. So again, I could get them to read a website. So that was just for the incorrect answer. And then I could also go back in. I have to take this zoom down a little bit because it's playing up. It wants to always sit at the top. And I can do the same for the correct answers as well. Okay, so enter some feedback and either give them a video to watch or another website. And that website could be one of my own slider decks, or it could be one of my own Google Docs, which you want them to do some reading prompts on. It doesn't have to be something that's public out on the internet. It could be something that's yours and locked within your domain. So that's something you could think about, because every Google Doc has its own URL. So remember that and use that as well. So we've now made a lovely self-marking quiz. So I don't need to put all the other questions in if I don't want to, but I'll just add one more question just to show you a different question type. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to add one more question just to show you a different question type. So which of these are characters in the book? That's going to be my question. And then we've got Atticus Finch. I've got Hecate. And then I've got Heather Robinson. Okay, so this time I'm not going to put it as a multiple choice, because actually there's 2 correct answers on here, and multiple choice means the students can only select one answer. So I want them to be able to choose 2 answers this time that are correct. So this time it's not a multiple choice, but it's a checkbox. And you'll notice the circle for multiple choice turns into a square for checkbox. And that just gives me a prompt to remind me it's a different question type. And I can go back into the answer key as I did before. And this time I want both of these to be the correct answer. And if they get them both right, they'll get 2 points. And again, I can go in and give some feedback. I'm not going to do that for this particular question, but you get the idea. I can go in and put the feedback and spend the time doing that on all of them. So I might just take them back to another video which shows 2 of those characters in it or something like that. And then I'm done. So that's another little form complete, and we're sort of cracking on at a good speed here. So let's have a look. What do I need to do now? I need to preview it. Always previewing. And you see it's got a very nice looking style to it. Okay, it's got a bit where they can watch the video, and each question is very clear. It's showing me at the moment they're not required questions because there's no actual red asterisks on it, but the students can see the point system on it. They can see 1 point and 2 point respectively on those questions. And they can see that there are different question types. So, and this one allows me to select more than one. This one only allows me to select one. Okay. Now, if I wanted to give students a little bit more of a prompt here, I can actually click on the 3 dots at the bottom. So where it says required, there's 3 dots here as well. And I can select that, and I can put a description on the actual question. So for every question, I might put there are 2 correct answers. So I'm really giving my students a little bit of help there by telling them how many correct answers or how many are right in that particular question. And this one, I might tell them the top one, there's only 1. But you can see now that's building up nicely, and we're getting where we want to be with it. Okay, so let's have a look now at what it looks like to get some responses in here. So I think I shut down my other one that I had open. Just bear with me. Let me bring that back up again. I'm going to come back to that very first form that I did first of all, just to show you this one has been filled in, and I've got 17 responses on that form. So when you're in question, this is where we were putting our questions together. And then on every form, we've got responses as well. And this is what I love about Google as well, about Google Forms, is that if I was using this particular class survey to get some quick data for my students, I've got that straight away. There was only 1 question on there. So straight away I can see that 35.3% of my student group have got 2 pets. 17.6 have got 3 pets, and you can go around and look at this table. But if I didn't want it to be in that particular style, I can look at it in a different way. But I can, what's really nice, use the copy chart, and I can take that into another Google product. So I can just open, oops, sorry, I've just gone on to a different place, go back to my drive. I could just open up like a Google Doc, for instance, and I can actually paste that chart straight into a Google Doc. I could do the same on a Google website, or I can do the same in Blogger or Slides. So anywhere that I want to put that chart, I can. And that's a great feature to be able to do very quickly. But if I want to see that in a slightly different way, what I can do is export my answers to a spreadsheet. So view responses in sheets. And if I click on that one, that will open up just a spreadsheet. And then what I've got the option of doing is, as it's done straight away from me, is and it's done that because I did this one earlier, I've made a different type of chart from the data in the spreadsheet. So this is now spreadsheets rather than actually working in Google Forms. Google Form will choose the type of chart that it thinks is best for my data. But if I want to do something different with it, like if this was an activity for my students, I could then say to the students, like, we'll export this data. I could give everybody access to it or get a copy of these responses and teach them then how to make different types of charts from it. So if you'll see, I can add different charts there as I have done already. So that's a nice way of looking at your data. Just going to move stuff out of the way. Okay, so, and again, let's have a look at the responses in this particular one because there's two questions. So again, if I go on responses, at the moment, there are no responses. Notice I can turn responses off as well. So say, for instance, I've pushed this out on the internet or on a Facebook group, or it went in a WhatsApp group, but it's got a time limit on it. You're asking opinions about something that's happening. Maybe you might want to stop accepting responses eventually. You can just turn it off. There's no need to delete it from the website. You can just stop accepting responses. But let's get some data in there first of all. So the easiest way to do that is to go to the preview, and then I can just simply fill it in, and I'll get a couple wrong and I'll submit it, and I can submit another response, get it right, and submit another response. And we'll go and have a look at this data in a second. But before I do that, when I submit it this time as a user, let's have a look at what it looks like for my users. So I'm going to look at view score. And this is what it looks like for my student. It will come up and it will show me, first of all, at the top, how many points I got. So I got 3 out of 3 on this particular one. And then it will show you the answer that I chose and the right answer. So that's a great thing to be able to see. Let's show you what that looks like when I don't do the right answer as well. So let's have a look at getting it quite a little bit wrong. Let's look at the score this time. So this time I didn't get any points. I didn't get any points for that top one because I chose the wrong one. It tells me the correct answer, that is this second one. And I didn't get any points for the second one because there are 2 correct answers, and I was told that. And because I only chose one, it won't give me 1 point out of 2. I have to get them both right to get the full points. There is no like half points, okay, or single points for getting one right. So that's what it looks like for my students. Let's go back to our responses now, and you can see that I filled it in 4 times up here. And this is where you can start to see the responses really coming alive. I get the options to see a summary. I get the option to look by question or by individual person. So first of all, the summary one is where we are, and it's telling me that the average points my users got is 1.5 out of 3, and it's got the medium and the range. It's showing me where my points were distributed that people are getting. And then it will show me each question, and it will show me that 2 people said that he's making fun of her and 2 people thought it was the top one. And then it will show me what answers were selected overall for the whole class. Now, where that is useful for your students is if you've got a big group and you're trying to find out what areas are really not being taken in by the whole group. If you can see that quite a few people got this question wrong, it might be worth going back and reteaching that little bit so that it gives you some idea of how the group as a whole is performing. Okay, really useful for a teacher. You can actually look per question. I don't tend to do that too often, but you can look at the 2 responses for that particular question if I wanted to. That's not one I use so much, but I do love to look at the individual one. And the individual answers are useful, but for me in this particular one, I didn't put a question with the name on it, so I can look through, but these are anonymous. Now, if I was really using this as a teaching resource, I would make sure that I'd put a question that said name at the top so that I could see whose work this was. But imagine I could see that this was, student 1, and I can see how student 1's done. Oh, they haven't done too well. They didn't get any points. I can go across to student 2. And I can see that this student's doing really well. They've got all of them right. And now I can look past the summary and actually looking at my individual students to see where the strengths are coming through and what gaps are still there in the learning. So that's a really useful way of looking at your responses. I love that. And again, you can, from this point, create the spreadsheet and take it out if you need to do that. Okay, let's close that particular one. And I will come back and answer your question about the audio. We will have a look and see what we can do with Mote on that one. So this time I'm just going to look at another type of form that you can do, which is actually like a branching thing. And a branch is really when somebody chooses an answer, it takes them to a different part of the form. Now, I've used an order form for food here. That's not particularly school type, but the other way this is used a lot is where you are asking people, they want to give you feedback. This is a feedback form. And the first question might be, would you like to praise us or make a complaint? So this would be praise or complaint, but I just like to do the food one because it's quite nice. Okay, rather than praises and complaints. So let's have a look at the food order form and make this one. So again, I'm just going to close that one down, come back into my form, my forms folder that's in my Google Drive. I'm going to click on New again and Google Forms. This time, it didn't need to be a quiz this time because this is more like a survey one again, but I'm going to call this food order. And again, make it quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is put name, and hopefully by now you'll know that if I put name, it should turn to a short answer, and it did that. And then the next important question is going to be, would you prefer hot or cold food? And then I'm going to put the 2 options I've given people, which are hot. Oops. I'll zoom in a second, and cold. Okay, so I've got my first question ready where I've said, would you prefer hot or cold food? Now, the trick to branching is at this point, think about, what do I now need? I need sections. I need a section that matches this option and a section that matches this option. So I'm going to put 2 sections in. First of all, the first section is going to be hot food. And I'm going to put the second section in without the question yet. And this one's going to say cold food. Okay, so I've got sections, but I've got no questions in them just for now. So let's have a look. Hot food first. I'm going to click on the section because remember, when I add a question, it will add it underneath where I'm clicked. So I want it to be in section 2. So I'm clicking on section 2 and then add question. And my question is, what dish would you like? Oops, lots of typing mistakes again. What dish would you like? And I'm going to make that a multiple choice. And I'm going to put some options in. It's making me hungry. It is getting to tea time now. Black pania and a cara. So there's some nice options of hot food that somebody might like to eat. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go to my cold food section. And I'm going to add a question in here. And this is going to be, what dish would you like? And option 1 is going to be pasta. These are not going to be quite as nice dishes, but they'll be all right. Sandwich, if you're hungry, you'll eat it, won't you? There we go. Pasta, sushi, and a sandwich. So we've now got our form set up. We've got where we want the branch, and we've got the sections with the question in for each of the branches. Now, I'm showing this on a really easy way with hot and cold food. I said it can be used for praise and also for complaints. But in teaching, this could be used and is used and often used for people to build quizzes that take students to different questions based on their answers. So you can start off with some really simple questions. And if they get those simple ones right, after a couple of questions, it moves them onto a higher level section. And if they're getting those ones wrong, it keeps them on questions of a similar level till they start getting it right. So although I'm showing you it on a really simple scale here, that is just to give you an idea of how it works and how easy it is to do, but you can actually use it for your teaching as well. So what we're going to do now is start at the top. So right at the top here, where it says here, would you prefer hot or cold food? We've got to look at, after section 1, what do we want to do? We want to continue to the next section, okay? That's what we've got at the moment. But if I click on my actual question, I can look at the 3 dots, and I'll try and take that in a little bit bigger because that's quite small. 3 dots here. And I'm going to go to a section based on the answer. And that pops up these options here for me. And now you can see why I've put the sections in first before I did this, because now it's really easy. So when somebody selects the hot food option, I don't want it to continue to the next section. I want it to go to the hot food section. Okay, so hot food goes to hot food. And cold food obviously needs to go to the cold food section. There we go. So when somebody chooses that answer, it will take them to the right place. Now, here's the important bit. So if they choose hot food and they make their choice, what I don't want my users to do is to continue to the next section, which then takes them to cold food. They only get one option of what they can do. Okay, so after section 2, which is the hot food, if they've selected hot food, I need to then say that their next option is to submit the form. And that's the really important bit to do. So if you were doing this in terms of teaching at different levels, you would have your sections labeled out as in level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, that got incrementally more difficult with the types of answers and questions that you're giving students. And you would then tell them to move on to the next level once they've got a couple of the questions right. So that's where you would do it differently for yours. And then the cold food option, because it is the last option, it will automatically submit the form anyway. So let's just have a look at what that looks like as a finished form and see how it works. Remember, we're going to preview. So again, I'm going to put my name in here. So there we go. And would I prefer hot or cold food? Well, I'll select cold first of all and click on next. Hopefully that takes me to the cold food section. I get to choose that I like sushi and I can submit it. Great, that worked. Let's submit another response. And this time I'm going to be Fred. And Fred doesn't want cold food, he wants hot. And click on the next one. Hopefully, if we've done it right, that will take us to the hot food options. And they might want a black bean curry, and we can submit it. So that's worked really well. We saw with that simple branching. Now, if you are going to do this for a more complicated form, what I suggest you do is you actually sketch out where all your answers are going. And once you've done that sketch, you can then transfer it onto your form. It's much easier to do it from a sketch and follow a little thumbnail sketch than to try and work it out in your head. And you must test every option when you do it, especially as you're very new to it. But you can see here now that one person chose hot food and the other chose cold. And you can see now that 100% people on hot chose the black bean curry and 100% on the cold chose the sushi. So you can start to see how Google pulls all this information in for you. Okay, let's come back in and see if we can answer that question now. You want to know how to insert recorded audio for the students to listen to and answer the questions. Okay, so let's go back in to a new form again. Okay, now I'm calling this audio test, but really it wants to be mixed up a bit with the others. Hopefully this will give you what you want, Chai, but I'm not sure whether it will give it in its entirety. So first of all, you do have the Moat option here. And I got that by downloading that from the Chrome App Store, and it's a third-party app. So it's not part of Google. It is a third-party app. And if you're not, if you're just a regular user using the free version, then you do only get 30 seconds to record. So that might not be long enough. That's why I'm saying it might not be long enough for you. Okay, but it is an option and it is a way, and it's actually quite new. So if we click on click to record now, you'll see that I've got 30 seconds. I could be asking my students a question like, what color is a banana? And as soon as I've done that, I can click on done. And it's having a think about it. And it's put the question in here. So I've now got that as an answer. I could also put the question in here. That's the question. I don't know why I asked what colour banana is, but that's what came out. There we go. What colour's a banana? And I've also got the recording of that here as well. I can then also do the same in the options and click on record. This should be option 1. It's not going to let me do it as the answers. It will only give me 1 per question. Okay, there's a limitation on it. It's the first time I've used it in forms for myself. But okay, it looks like I can't do the actual options. I can only do the main question. I still think Moat might work for you because you can actually use Moat in a slightly different way and copy the link that you've created into the options. So that would work. But this isn't a Moat session, so I don't really want to go too far into that particular way. But I would download it and have a play with it. And once you've got that, you'll be able to have a look at the different options you've got for using Moat. And I think it's a great little app for you to try. So it will only let you put 1 on the quiz itself, but you can use Moat on its sort of clipboard that it has and put them into options as well. That will work for you. Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Chai. Hopefully that did that for you. Any more questions coming in about anything that I haven't shown you yet that you might like to do? Otherwise, I'm going to show you how we can insert questions and import them from other places. So that's our next sort of place to go to. So that was our one audio test. Obviously, we only done 1 question on there. I'm just going to carry on with this form itself. So this will be a bit of a play form, this one. It'll be a bit of a mixture of things. So say, for instance, now you saw me do that To Kill a Mockingbird form, and that might have been something that was used as an end of unit test. But what about when I get to the end of term? Maybe for every unit that I've done with my students, or every week that I've worked with my students, I've made a great Google form. But now it's got to the end of term and I want to sort of mix it up a little bit, and I now want to use individual questions from all of those end of unit forms that I created. So this is another way that you can use it. And if I come back to my toolbar here, where it's got the options on the side, there is something called import questions. And I can click on import questions from here. And what that should show you is all the different forms that I've created in this particular account. So you can see there's quite a few of them in there. So if I wanted to take a question from the To Kill a Mockingbird one, it will show me now the different questions that I actually asked within that form. So every question that was on that To Kill a Mockingbird form is now being shown on the right hand side. And if I want to add it to this one, I just need to select it and make it a little bit smaller so I can see. I can select 2 questions if I like, and I can import the questions into my other form here. So that's a great way of reusing work and mixing it up so that you can change the quizzes, so you can have a big bank of questions. Now, where I've seen this work really, really well is when teachers work together on when teachers work together, say in year groups or teaching teams. So if you've got a lot of maths teachers and they're all producing different tests and they've got them all in an account and they've shared them with each other as collaborators, or they've put them in a shared drive so that everyone can access it, then you can all pull different questions off of each other's tests, and that works really well. So let's have a look at how we add a collaborator. We looked at how we sent it to somebody to fill in, but if we want somebody else to work with us on it, so a co-teacher, what we need to do is go to the 3 dots in the top right hand corner, and we then get add collaborators. So once you've got the add collaborators, what you've now got is the ability to add an editor. So earlier on, I added Ben on this account. So I could say to him, you can use any questions from this if you like. I've got the option of making them an editor, which is what I asked it to do. So that's the option. I can leave a message if I like, but I can just simply send. And what that will do, it will send it to them in their shared with me area, and they can pick it up and use it. So they'd be able to move it into the drive, but more importantly, they'd be able to import questions from that so that it helps them to build up their bank of questions that they can use with their students too. So the more you can work with with other teachers, the better. You can quickly build up this bank of forms. How do I import MCQs from? I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that one. You'd need to Google that one. Or, yeah, I don't know if anyone else that's watching knows the answer to that. That's not something that I know how to do. Yeah, the listening audio is only about a minute, so a mote only allows 30 seconds. So there are a couple of options around that one. If you think mote is an option, but it's too short, you can use the paid version. There is that option. It's whether it's worth it to your organization, or if you start to use mote and become a mote ambassador, you also then get I think 90 seconds to be able to create on your mote. So that's something that you could look at. Okay, so we're sort of nearing the end of what I wanted to show you in this particular session. I'm just trying to look at, have I not given you some things. I think that what I'll do is I'll add a different question to this one. So this is something also that you might like to do, depending on the level of students you're working with. So I've shown you something that's sort of GCSE sort of level here with the Killer Mockingbird. But what if I wanted to create something for primary level, or I wanted to create something for students with special needs? I've worked and created a lot of forms for students with special needs. So let's have a little look. I'm going to create a question here. So add another question. And this time what I want to do is a picture question. So I'm going to do things about flower identification this time. So I'm going to ask, what flower is this? This is the first type. So again, I'm doing flowers. This could be anything. It could be, you know, what piece of equipment is this, whether you were doing like car engineering or something like that, any sort of level, you just got to get the right question type. And this time, instead of putting a question on, an image on the option, I'm going to put an image on the actual question. So again, that will take me straight to a Google image search, and I'm going to look for a rose. And the great thing is I get lots of options, and I can just double click it. And that will pop an image in as a question. And then my multiple choice could be tulip, and it could be or rose. Okay, so my students have now got the option, and this is what it looks like for the user. So it's a lovely, nice big picture with a question and the options for students to use it. So that's one thing. You can use that type of one here. I've also seen this done where people have put an image underneath this. So they've put an image of the tulip, but under, I haven't even spelt it right, but under the word tulip, where I've written the word tulip, they've also added an image for the Makaton for the options as well. So that works really well when you're working with students with learning difficulties. So I'm going to add another question as well. And this time it will be, which of these is a rose? So a different type of question. Which of these is a rose? And this time my options are going to be A, and then there'll be a picture, a Google search, and I'll put the word tulip and find one that's very particularly a tulip. And then I'll add another option, and I'll make that B and add an image with a Google image search. And this one will be rose. And just to be cheeky, I'll choose a different type of rose to the one I chose earlier. And again, that's a great question. It's very visual. It helps learners that need to work from visual resources rather than the text-based stuff that I did earlier. So you can really use forms for all different levels of student. Okay, it's not just for primary, it's not just for secondary, it works for everyone. I've done a lot of quizzes like this for adults too. So I think that's probably, unless we've got any questions about it for today, I'm just going to pop in a feedback form for people, if you don't mind. I'm just going to add a feedback form. Let's have a little look here. And I'll add it to the chat as well. So in case you want to leave some feedback, it's always great to get feedback from these sessions because we can only improve these sessions if people give us feedback on it. Feedback 2021 LGFL. So that should be the comment on there for you. That should be something you can just copy and paste into your... No, there isn't something we do at the moment, and that's something you could add to your feedback. We don't give certificates at the moment. It's something that's been asked previously, but not just at the moment. But put it in your feedback. That's the sort of thing that helps to improve. It is something that is important to you. Please put that back in. And also what I want to put on as well as the feedback, I want to just make sure that you know that we've got this place where you can sign up for more events as well. So we've also got the GFE UK events. So I'll just pop that in as well. bit.ly GFE events. Whoops, UK events. And at the moment, there's not very many sessions on there because we're in the very last week of the term now. But over the next month, we will then populate that for resources that go and sessions that go right up to Christmas. So it's worth having a little look in the next few weeks, maybe just bookmarking that page somewhere and making sure that you know to go back and have a look, because we know we're going to add loads of great activities and things for you to join. So please, please, please do come back and join us and sign up for more events. But I'm just going to say thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. So I know you're busy people, and I know, it might be evening where you are. If you're in the UK, it's certainly after school time and time for us to start getting a little bit of our time back for ourselves. Hopefully by finishing 15 minutes early, I've given you a little bit of time back. But I will hope to see you again very soon. Please keep safe and please keep well. Take care, everyone. Bye.